So the Bose 700 has been my go-to all-rounder headphones for ANC and calls. Then Headset Advisor introduced me to the Tilde Pro, which promised superior ANC and call quality, and an interesting modular design. Would it be able to take the place of the Bose 700 in my daily life? Let's find out. Before we start, this will simply be a comparison review, not a review of each of the headphones. I did review them both separately though. You can watch the Tilde Pro review over here, and I'll also put a link to it and to my review of the Bose 700 in the comments section. And another disclaimer before we begin, Headset Advisor did send me the Tilde Pro to review, but this of course has no impact on my review or findings. And the Bose 700, well, I bought that with my own money. So let's get started with ANC. So I gave these two headphones the ultimate test in what I believe is ANC's best use case and where they work best: airplanes. I had them both on a 5-hour flight from LA to Philly and another 7-hour flight from Washington DC to Paris. I kept alternating between both of them all throughout the flight, and here are my thoughts. The Tilde Pro did a fairly decent job at attenuating the loud engine noise, but when I switched to the Bose 700, I immediately noticed that it did a better job. Not by a mile, maybe by a few feet, but it is noticeably better. Now that was without any music. It's a bit less noticeable when you have some music on, because obviously the music drowns the sound of the engine. You can still hear the engine roar. It's attenuated quite substantially, but it's there and you can hear it. And if there's any moments of silence or instrumental segments in your song, you'll feel it's even more pronounced. Again, it's low, but it's there, visibly there. While with the Bose, at moments where there's a lot going on in the song or the movie, you don't hear the engine at all. You kind of forget it's there. Now, still at moments of instrumental music or pauses, the engine noise is still there too, but even more subtle than with the Tilde Pro. Bottom line, with the Bose, you kind of forget you are in a plane after a few minutes. The engine sound just disappears into the background. With the Tilde Pro, this doesn't happen. The engine sound is never really gone. It's always there, low, but there. Unlike with the Bose, you don't forget you're in a plane, but it makes your journey way more comfortable. It certainly attenuates the sound of that engine, and when you take them off, boy do you feel the difference. So the Bose wins here, not by a lot, but still has the better ANC. Now, in terms of transparency mode, they both have variable ANC. That is, you can adjust the degree to which you let in ambient sounds, the lowest of which would be what some manufacturers call transparency mode. But the Tilde Pro actually has kind of two different transparency mode. There's the Awareness Plus mode, which actually is a patented selective noise cancellation technology that they have developed. You get that when you click on the Voice First button on the left ear cup, which pauses whatever you're listening to and activates voice enhancement. Unlike transparency mode, which lets in all ambient sounds, what the Awareness Plus mode is supposed to do is only let in conversations while still blocking or limiting background noises. While this works to a certain degree, it sounds somewhat unnatural. It does cut down a little on background noises, and it also increases the volume of voices or conversations. So it's good in that regard, but it sounds a bit unnatural. On the other hand, when you use the normal transparency mode, that is holding down the rocker all the way up for a minimum ANC, that one actually works quite well. It sounds pretty natural. The only downside is that it won't pause whatever you're listening to automatically. The Bose also has Aware mode, which you get by pressing the ANC button for a few seconds. This also pauses the music and activates transparency mode, but that's just transparency mode, as in the same as minimum ANC. While the transparency mode on the Bose is not bad, that of the Tilde Pro is superior. It sounds way more natural than it does on the Bose. My indicator for naturalness is usually to speak and hear what my self voice sounds like, and with the Bose it sounds a bit muffled, kind of like when you're speaking while blocking your ears. With the Tilde Pro it sounds less muffled, more natural, more like you're not wearing anything. Not to the degree of naturalness of the AirPods Max, but still quite natural. So the Tilde Pro wins in this category. Now let's test the microphone quality in our call quality tests. So let's start with the Tilde Pro, and this is what it sounds like without the boom mic attached. So right now you're listening to it to the earcup mics. Let's now attach the boom mic. So right now you're listening to what the Tilde Pro sounds like with the boom mic attached. So again, this is the Tilde Pro in a quiet environment with the boom mic attached. And now you're listening to the Bose 700. So this is what the Bose NC700 sounds like in a quiet environment. Again, this is what the Bose 700 sounds like in a quiet environment. And now back to the Tilde Pro, and let's introduce some loud sounds in the background, starting off with the loud hairdryer. I'm going to start with the boom mic detached, so the earcup mics, and then I'll attach the boom mic. So this is what the Tilde Pro sounds like with the boom mic detached. So the earcup mics are right now the ones that I'm listening to. Let's now attach the boom mic. So I just attached the boom mic. There's a loud hairdryer running in the background, and this is what the Tilde Pro sounds like with the boom mic attached with the loud hairdryer running in the background. And now for the same test, the hairdryer is still on, and this is what it sounds like on the Bose NC700. So this is what the Bose NC700 sounds like with the loud sound of a hairdryer running in the background. And now for the final test, some simulated background noises, again on the Tilde Pro with the earcup mics. Let's now attach the boom mic. So right now the boom mic is attached on the Tilde Pro with the loud ambient sounds or simulated background sounds in the background. I will switch to the camera microphone so you can get an idea or have an idea how loud these sounds are. And now let's see how the Bose does in the same environment. And for the final test, again, I have the same loud sound, simulated sound in the background, and this is what it sounds like on the Bose 700. So this is the Bose NC700 with a loud simulated background sound running in the background. Now one last test, I actually recorded segments in the airplane with the loud sound of the engine in the background with both the Bose 700 and the Tilde Pro, and here is where you more evidently see the difference in call quality. Let's listen. And so this is what the Bose NC700 sound like on an airplane with the loud engine sound in the background. The Piper, Big Pecca, Pickled Peppers. 8 Pecca pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked. So this is what the Tilde Pro sound like in an airplane with a loud sound of the engine in the background. The boom mic is currently connected. I will now remove it. So right now you're listening to me with the earcup microphones. I am now going to put the boom mic again. And this is again the boom mic on the Tilde Pro with a loud sound of an engine in the background. Peter Piper picked 8 peck of pickled peppers. 8 peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked. So this is what the engine sounds like according to my iPhone. So I'm adding one more test to my call quality test, and this is actually a real-life situation where there's cars passing by and there's a lot of traffic, and also because Drew from Headset Advisor left a comment on my earlier review of the Tilde Pro, saying that the boom mic is actually bendable, and rightfully so. You can bend the boom mic so it is closer to your mouth, and the microphone quality would be even better. So this way you can hear what it sounds like with the boom mic bended, and also in a real-life situation with cars and traffic around. I'm now going to remove the boom mic. So now this is what it sounds like with the earcup mics. The cars are still passing by behind me, and there's a little bit of wind. Now the boom mic is back on. As you can see, there's a little bit of wind as well.
And now let's switch to the Bose 700 to see how the Bose performs in the same loud and noisy environment. And this is what the Bose 700 sounds like in the same loud environment. Now, I'm saying loud environment. You are probably not hearing the loud environment because the Bose is actually cutting down that background noise. You have no idea. So let me switch to the camera's microphone so you can see how loud the environment actually is. And this is how loud the environment actually is right now. So you're hearing me through the iPhone's microphone right now. And as you can see, the environment is quite loud, and the Bose does a fantastic job at cutting down all that background noise. However, that does come at the expense of voice clarity, which in the case of the Tilde Pro, that doesn't happen. The Tilde Pro is actually able to also cut down impressively on the background noise, but also your voice still comes out clear and natural. Let me know in the comments section what you thought on the performance of the Bose versus the Tilde Pro.
In terms of comfort, well, comfort isn't bad on the Tilde Pro. Not the most comfortable headset, but not terrible either. On the over-the-ear cups, I did notice one thing though, it does tend to run a bit small. I don't particularly have a very large head, or maybe I got used to other headphones that have a different feel, but when I first put them on and I extended them to the maximum, I still would have wanted a little bit more to cover my ears more comfortably. I felt that my ear was at the limit of that. It feels weird at first because with other headphones I would have them just a tad more, but that's just a small warning for people with, well, larger heads, something maybe to think about. The clamping force, however, I felt is just right. It's tight enough to provide a good seal, but not too tight for it to be painful. And as with what happened with the ANC, I took these off and put the Bose on, and I also immediately noticed that they are far more comfortable. I'm not sure why that is, because in terms of weight, they're quite similar. The Bose comes in at 261 grams, while the Tilde Pro with the over-the-ear ear cups comes in at 270. If you remove the boom mic though, that brings it down to 256 grams. So actually a few grams lighter than the Bose. Still, the Bose was more comfortable. With the on-ear cups, the Tilde Pro weighs about 235 grams or about 220 without the boom mic. Can't really compare the comfort of on-ear with that of the Bose because, well, they feel different. But in terms of comfort, this point goes towards the Bose 700. The Bose has an app on your phone which gives you some control over settings, like setting the exact level of ANC, setting self-voice level, turning on or off voice prompts, what the shortcut button does, triggering the voice assistant, hearing battery level, opening Spotify. There's also some form of equalizer too, where you can adjust the bass, treble, or mids. The Tilde Pro does not have an app. There is a companion software called Orosound Link for your PC or Mac, which allows you to set self-voice level and update the firmware on the Tilde Pro, but that's about it. Also, you need to connect the headphones via USB cable to do that. You cannot do it via Bluetooth, so it's not exactly convenient, and there's no EQ, at least yet, on the Tilde Pro. So the point here goes to Bose. In terms of the UI with the Tilde Pro, I was a bit disappointed with how you interact with it. The buttons weren't the easiest to locate or press. Finding where the volume buttons are and then going over them to see if that is the volume up or the volume down or the pause button. Yeah, I did not like it much. Maybe I would get used to it with time, but first impressions, I'm not a big fan. The rocker is a nice touch to increase or decrease the variable ANC on the go. I like that, but also it's small and not too intuitive to operate. Maybe a rocker of the sort to increase or decrease volume could have been easier than the buttons. Either way, not very happy with how you operate the Tilde Pro. The only button that is easy to press and operate, and I actually like that, is the mute button on the boom mic, which is over here. But that's only when you have the boom mic attached. The Bose 700, on the other hand, has touch controls. I'm not normally a big fan of touch. I do prefer physical buttons, but truth of the matter is the touch on the Bose works, and it works quite well. You have gestures like swiping up and down for volume, tapping and double tapping. I found it really well made, responsive, and easy to operate. So the point goes to Bose over here. One thing to point out though, the Tilde Pro has the rocker I mentioned, which allows you to play with the level of ANC. On the Bose, they have a different approach. You have 11 different levels of ANC, but you can only have this granular control through the app. Through the headset itself, you can only cycle through 3 presets that you define. Normally that's 0 or transparency mode, 5 which is mid ANC, and 10 which is the highest ANC. So not as much control as with the Tilde Pro, but I find that that's more than enough for my needs. And I'd take that easy intuitive controls of the Bose over the buttons of the Tilde Pro any day. In terms of audio quality, as I always say, this is subjective. I personally prefer that of the Bose, though I know a lot of people don't really like the Bose signature sound. They both sound good, but to me the Bose sounds better. It's a fuller, more vibrant and richer sound. The sound on the Tilde Pro, well, I found nothing special there at all. For some reason, it did sound better when I plugged it in, that is, when it was operated via USB-C cable. The sound kind of came to life a bit, more than with Bluetooth. That was a bit unexpected. Yeah, even then, I still think the Bose sounds better. But you're not getting these headphones for the very best audio quality, and you're not gonna get the best with either of them. I still give the point to Bose, and also another advantage of the Bose is that there is some sort of EQ, as I said earlier. Not true EQ, but at least you can adjust bass, mids, and treble in the Bose app. That doesn't exist, at least yet, on the Tilde Pro. So my final thoughts, the ultimate conclusion after all this blah blah blah, which I would recommend, and does the Tilde Pro replace the Bose? And to that I say no, not quite, but it's a worthy contender. You know, Bose has been mastering and perfecting their ANC for decades. What you might not know is that they actually started somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s with ANC headsets for airplane pilots. And then they were the first to release ANC consumer headphones. So they've been doing this for a long time. Orosound was founded just a couple years ago in 2015. So they're quite new to the game. And respect to the product they've introduced. It's not perfect, no pair of headphones, but to get this much right on their first try, that's impressive. So in terms of ANC, while the Tilde Pro has an impressive effort, if you want the better ANC, I would go with the Bose 700. Same for ease of use and how you interact with the headset, and also for better audio quality. If you want the selective noise cancellation or the Aware Plus mode via the voice first button, then I believe no other headset offers that other than the Tilde Pro, and the technology is good, but I think it's still in its infancy. I'd be excited to see how it looks like when it's further developed and tuned. In terms of call quality though, here I'd easy to recommend the Tilde Pro, despite the Bose 700 being my previous favorite headset for call quality. The Tilde Pro simply sounds more natural, and with a boom mic, it's way more superior than the Bose, especially in noisy situations. But another major advantage for the Tilde Pro, and also unique, is its modular design. So if you like the flexibility of having on-ear and over-ear headphones, then really your only cost is the $25 or so for the pair of on-ear ear cups, instead of having to buy a whole new set of headphones. And if you'd like to appear less geeky while in a coffee shop, then you can detach the boom mic. That's pretty neat. So in conclusion, the best headphone is the one that answers your needs. And I hope I helped shed some light on how either of them could answer your specific needs. If I did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel, as this encourages me to continue producing content. Until next time, cheers.